Sup nerds? Don't mind me. I'm just unpacking from my trip to the backyard. It was a long and strenuous journey, but I did pick up some souvenirs along the way. I can also relate to how real wrestlers feel now. Most of us know or should know that wrestlers can have ridiculous travel schedules. Not only do they travel across the United States, but around the world to perfect their craft, or is just part of the job. And they also have to deal with airport assholes. Fuck off with that and get a life, you dickheads. It seems like every company these days is expanding their reach in several countries for better and for worse, but we sometimes forget who was ahead of that trend. And you'll be surprised to know, it was WCW. And I'm not just talking about the game title, these were the crazy sons of bitches who went to North Korea. And you thought Saudi Arabia was bad. I doubt we'll be going to that utopian hellhole, but on a different note, the nWo did extend their reach to Japan, which makes sense seeing as that is where Eric Bischoff got the idea from. It all comes full circle, just like the world, because it is round despite what a few wrestlers may think. Probably lost a few brain cells from getting hit on the head. Anyway, WCW vs. nWo World Tour is the first game to bring the development tag team of Aki Asmik and publisher THQ onto the Nintendo 64. They had previously debuted their style of video game wrestling on the PS1 with WCW vs. The World, but the less said about that game, the better, believe me. Or don't and watch this video. You'll understand eventually. World Tour came out only on the N64, first in North America on November 30th, 1997, and months later in Europe on February 12th, 1998. Japan wouldn't get the game under the WCW nWo branding, instead released in the region as Virtual Pro Wrestling 64 on December 19th, 1997. Support goes up to 4 players, and the ESRB rated it KA for kids to adults. Not every day you see that for a wrestling game. I almost had the opportunity to buy the box and manual for this game for a good deal too, but I wasn't quick enough to pick it up, so we'll be sticking with the cartridge as we do with most Nintendo games. But we still get to look at the same artwork, and by looking at the cartridge here, we have Hulk Hogan representing the nWo, while the Giant is on WCW's side. I mean, by this time, Hogan was feuding with Lex Luger and was about to go into Starrcade with Sting, but the soon-to-be Big Show was still a big deal in the promotion, even if he kept flip-flopping allegiances. He could never catch a break with that booking bullshit. The back of the cartridge has the typical information nobody really cares about. So all we have left is to play this game and wonder where in the world is World Championship Wrestling, and where could they take us? To their credit, WCW was more colorful with their locations, from the beach, Mall of America, and the yearly motorcycle rallies at the Hog Wild pay-per-view. So the possibilities are endless, I think. The one commendable thing about most Aki Asmik games is that they'll always show off the graphics, even if they look like dog shit in hindsight. They were proud. They were really proud. That's all you can ask for. And to be fair, this had to have been amazing for the time, as it was the first wrestling game on the N64 and probably many's first taste of 3D polygonal wrestling, because you weren't going to get anything good on the PS1 yet. Heading in towards a one-on-one exhibition, it looks like we have a decent selection of wrestlers for both the WCW and nWo roster with interesting portraits next to their 64-bit renders. We also have randos from places like Dead or Alive Wrestling or the Independent Union. These are obviously Americanized names for Japanese wrestlers and promotions, who I still couldn't recognize even if you put a gun to my head, but I'm still able to recognize these names.
Scott buff, I'm tough, I'm the stuff.
What is he, the sixth one?
And that guy from The Crow. You know what? We're gonna go with Sting, as this was the peak of his powers in the promotion, and he'll go against his doppelganger from the other side, as I don't remember them ever clashing at the time. They would get into altercations from time to time, but I couldn't find proof of a proper match. I did find it funny that the nWo Sting was much more popular in Japan. Cultural differences are still funny. Benefit of being on a cartridge is that the action loads in straight away and we get our brief introductions like we were in a boxing ring. Who gives a crap about entrances? One thing I hated about WCW, before they got worse, was the announcers would never shut up for introductions 90% of the time, and it drove me nuts. The Federation had them beat in that regard, but WCW for their part knew where to excel elsewhere, and that was certainly the case for video games. Akiasmic Ace games are well regarded for their controls. I've talked about them a few times before, and I would tell you them again, but Fake Sting is too weak. I beat him in over a minute. What can I say? I'm a natural. Admittedly, I thought that was oddly quick, and I discovered the difficulty was set to easy. I learned from last time, so I set it to normal and went for round 2. The main thing to remember is that A is for grappling and B is for attacking. Holding either button will result in stronger variations of the moves, and you can use the D-pad to change up your offense, which will be crucial in building up your spirit meter. If you're able to consistently hit different moves, and taunting also goes a long way, you'll build up your spirit to use your special move. You'll then have to use a strong grapple with the stick to hit it, but the move I got wasn't a Scorpion Deathlock or a Scorpion Death Drop. I just got a Scorpion Death Bomb? A Stinger Bomb? I've never seen him use that move, but I bet you he wouldn't mind dishing one out to Seth Rollins after he retired him for a spell with that move. And even then, that didn't put nWo Sting away. A sleeper hold did after 3 minutes. I mean, I'm glad I can win a match consistently, but I feel like there's something missing. I think I'll go one more round. Other buttons include R for general blocking, L for blocking grapples. The C buttons do a few different functions, but the most important one is C down, as that also does pinning. Ah, that's it. Always gotta remember how to do that. And it's also good how to defend yourself, as the other Sting started to put up some form of a fight, and I then counter him out with my Michael Jackson yell. And I beat him once more with my patented chokehold. I'll take these victories. I've enjoyed playing, especially with how this feels seems so right. Akiasmic Ace knew where to put in the effort, and it wasn't in the graphics. This is great fun. Nothing can put a damper on this. Alex, we're having a problem here. Not now. Whatever it is, get it fixed without me. But it's about the season finale. We're not there yet. We'll deal with it after this. Go away. Gameplay was good, as I was expecting, but I think the biggest problem with most WCW games was the lack of different match types. We only have 3 more matches to choose from: Tag Team, 2-on-1 Handicap, and a Battle Royal, which is a basic 4-way. You can customize them a little bit, but the action remains mostly the same, just with more wrestlers in the fray. WCW was less likely to do stipulation bouts compared to the WWF, at least before the year 2000, so it may make sense if you look at it that way, but I would have liked it if they could include a weapon like a chair to swing. Then they could be on the same level as SVR 2008 on the Wii. That would have been fine, and it still is without it. At least it looks like that. I didn't try all of them myself, because anyone who tries Handicap and says it's fun is a bigger liar than Hulk Hogan. Yeah, that's right. I said it. Hogan is a Hulk. One of the most power-hungry cocksuckers in the business that only cared about nobody but himself. Living and breathing the American way. And, well, he certainly did, but not in the way we were led to believe. I'm glad he made a living off of being a prick, but now he should just go away. Well, you've done it now. Now we don't have a guest for the season finale. Like we could afford him. If TNA could get him, how are we any different? We're not a wrestling company, but we are cheap. I wonder if the huckster is still around. Get out! It seems like what WCW lacks in exhibition, they sure as hell try to make up for it with other modes. We already looked at the options briefly. It doesn't have much besides your basic stuff. I find it funny that they have a control configuration. Why would you mess with perfection? Is this how it feels to be Vince McMahon? Tournaments, you know what they are, and I usually don't like them. Up to 8 wrestlers compete in a singles or tag tournament just because, and I tried to make it somewhat entertaining by adding mostly cruiserweights, and I'm betting on Dean Malenko to take the prize of champion. Well, we all like Eddie anyway. He'll win it all. I gotta be honest, I'm not all too familiar with Ultimo Dragon's work, but he's my pick now! Yes! I knew it the whole time! And that's how Jerry Lawler bets in a nutshell. The Cruiserweight theme continues into the League Challenge, where you can choose a title to fight for, and you do so gauntlet style. I defeated the same dance partners I had in the other mode, and it was all worth it once I saw who my final opponent was.
Yo, it's me, it's DDP.
That's right, I got to face Diamond Dallas Page, renowned cruiserweight, for the belt, which I happened to win and unlock DDP as a reward, and found where the credits were hiding. You can unlock multiple wrestlers through this, only 6 including DDP, Macho Man, and Glacier, but here's the craziest thing I learned. Muhammad Ali is technically in this game. They changed his name, but the resemblance is uncanny. Apparently he's OP too, as the greatest should be. Look, Alex, can we talk about this now? The final episode for this season is going to be huge, and we need somebody else to make it better. Cody, I don't give a fuck who we get. Well, I do, but you can literally get anybody. I don't care. Just get it done. Alright, I got this. Downgrading from League Challenge to a regular league. This reminded me of that mode from Legends of Wrestling where the participants who get the most amount of points, i.e. wins, will be victorious. You only get a trophy for anything you do. A very Japanese thing. But we are getting more trophies these days. Another thing I'm realizing, Legends of Wrestling had no chance in hell when it included probably the worst mode from one of the better wrestling games before it. Saving what I'm assuming is the main mode for last, being WCW versus nWo. You select a Survivor Series team of sorts, 5 from each faction, and we see who comes out on top. I chose nothing but the best the game could offer, and Buff Bagwell, and it came down to be a neck-and-neck battle, leaving the Giant and Eric Bischoff as the final survivors for their brands. Bet we can guess how that ends up. Oh my god, Bischoff choked the Giant out! He is bleeding! New World Order! Guess he's had worse booking decisions, right? World Tour was a moderate success for all parties involved. It was reviewed well by a majority of the dirt sheets, and it sold well too, nearing 1.7 million units worldwide, ultimately making it the second best-selling wrestling game on the N64, just behind its successor, Revenge. Also did a video on that, which you should check out if you haven't already. I've done about half of all the World Championship Wrestling games released willingly or unwillingly, but don't expect them to be fruitful in the future. Have to stretch them out for as long as possible. Just like my pythons, brother. I wasn't around when WCW and the nWo were on top of the industry. I just came around when they were both on their way to the grave. They had the whole world in their hands and dropped it as fast as they said Mick Foley is going to win the WWF title. At least we still have memories of this bygone era, and sometimes they can be good. Really, any wrestling game that has the names of Aki and Asmic Ace involved is going to be good at some level. With maybe one exception, but a wise console change turned their fortunes for the better. While World Tour's graphics are dated to all hell, even considering what would come later, what makes it great are its controls, as it feels just right. It's easy and fun to play, as I'm not struggling to remember how things work, as the scheme just comes naturally. The roster is pretty decent, but we could have used more recognizable faces instead of the Japanese stars we wouldn't know anyway. The same goes for match types. There isn't much to go around to my liking, but they try to make up for it with multiple modes that are actually interesting and fun to partake for the most part. I was a tiny bit surprised by how good World Tour was, I'll admit that, but I knew in the back of my mind it would join its other Aki Asmagaze brethren on top of the mountain as some of the best wrestling games ever. And if you're wondering if I had to choose between the New World Order versus World Championship Wrestling, I'd be nWo. A good game with some minor flaws and things that you can look over to truly enjoy this trip around the world. Some might consider this the weakest of the four, but that doesn't mean it's bad by any stretch of the imagination. You wouldn't know that if you didn't just skip to my star rating. Well, this gets 3.5 for me. Glad that you cared. Now get out of here. This better be good, Cody. I don't have time to play any more of your games. Alex, I got someone. Do you want to elaborate on that? I don't have to. You'll find out. You